Scene script. Have you ever wondered about the power of a single grain of sand? What if that grain, instead of being inert silica, was a potent drug called fentanyl? Fentanyl, a name that sends shivers down the spines of many, is an opioid, a class of drugs that also includes the likes of morphine and heroin. But don't be fooled, fentanyl is no ordinary opioid. It's estimated to be roughly 50 times more potent than heroin and a staggering 100 times more potent than morphine. Originally developed for pain management treatment of cancer patients, it's no doubt that fentanyl serves a significant purpose in the medical field. However, its potency hasn't gone unnoticed by the illicit drug market. There, it's often mixed with other drugs, amplifying their effects, and sadly their dangers too. This tiny grain, insignificant in appearance, can hold the power of life and death. The fentanyl enigma is one that continues to puzzle and terrify, and it's an issue we must confront. But how does this tiny grain translate into a national crisis, you might ask? Allow me to shed some light. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid, is up to 100 times more potent than morphine. It's an invisible enemy, often mixed with other drugs, making it even more lethal. The result? A surge in drug-related deaths, with fentanyl as the leading cause. Over the past few years, the number of deaths from fentanyl overdose has been skyrocketing. From a few hundred in the early 2000s, it has now soared to tens of thousands annually. It's a staggering jump, a grim testament to the potency and availability of this drug. The access to fentanyl is alarmingly easy. It's not just on the streets anymore. The internet has become a marketplace where anyone can order this deadly drug. It's a click away, delivered right to the doorstep. This ease of access is one of the driving forces behind the escalating death toll. But the potency of fentanyl is what truly sets it apart. A dose as small as 2 milligrams can be lethal. It's a silent killer, claiming lives before one even realizes what's happening. The high potency combined with its widespread availability makes fentanyl a ticking time bomb. The fentanyl crisis is a monster that doesn't discriminate. It's affecting people across all age groups and social classes. From teenagers to the elderly, from the affluent to the poor, no one is immune. It's not just a crisis for drug users. It's a crisis for families, communities, and our society as a whole. The government and health organizations are scrambling to combat this crisis, but it's a difficult battle. The enemy is elusive, deadly, and ever-present. The fight against fentanyl is a fight against time, a race to save lives. So, when we talk about the fentanyl crisis, we're not talking about a distant problem. It's not a hypothetical scenario or a cautionary tale. It's a very real, very present threat. The fentanyl crisis is not a distant problem. It's knocking on our doors. We must recognize this and work together to fight this deadly enemy. So, what can we do in the face of this crisis? A question that resonates with many of us, and one that we can answer together. The key to combating the fentanyl crisis lies in education and awareness. Being informed about the dangers of fentanyl is not just a matter of public safety, it's a matter of life and death. Fentanyl is a potent and deadly drug, and its presence in our communities is a threat that we cannot ignore. Understanding its destructive power can save lives. Education is the first step. It is crucial to know that even the smallest amounts of fentanyl can be lethal. It's not a drug to be trifled with. It's not a drug to experiment with. It's a drug that demands respect for its deadly potential. But education isn't just about the dangers of fentanyl. It's also about understanding addiction, recognizing the signs and symptoms, and knowing how to respond. Addiction is a disease, not a moral failing, and it is treatable. There are resources available for those struggling with addiction. There are hotlines to call, centers to visit, and professionals ready to help. There are support groups and communities for those in recovery and for their families. There are people who understand, who've been there, who want to help. And let's not forget the role of policymakers in addressing this issue. They have the power to allocate funds, to enact laws, to shape the narrative around addiction. They can prioritize public health over punishment, treatment over incarceration. They can make a difference. But so can you. You can educate yourself, your friends, your family about the dangers of fentanyl. You can reach out to those in your community who are struggling. You can vote for policies and politicians who prioritize public health. You can be a part of the solution. Knowledge is power, and with power, we can turn the tide against the fentanyl crisis. Take the time to educate yourself and others about the dangers of fentanyl. Together, we can make a difference. Be sure to hit that like or subscribe button and keep being curious, beautiful, and continue learning. Check out some of my other videos and keep staying curious.